So next up, we have Mark Roberge, who we're really excited about. Mark is the former Chief Revenue Officer at Hubspot. He is author of the Sales Acceleration Formula, which is a New York Times bestseller, and he's currently a senior lecturer at the Harvard Business School. One of the reasons why we love Mark's story is because he is credited with changing the way that hundreds of companies think about this concept of revenue optimization. And really the way that companies think about actually building a scalable, predictable revenue machine. And so we have become big believers that the concepts that he talks about are now things that our industry can start to adopt through leasing. And so as Mark's going through his presentation, I really want you guys to think about some of the concepts and themes that Brandon talked about earlier. Because we believe that through VTS, this concept of revenue optimization is going to become a reality with the release of some of our new products. So we're really excited for Mark to be here, and I guarantee you that if you guys listen carefully, there will be some things that you guys can take away and apply across your teams and portfolios. So let's give a warm welcome for Mark Roberge.
Thanks, buddy. All right. Thank you, folks. Humbled to be here. So as Ryan mentioned, I joined this 4-person startup 10 years ago called Hubspot as the VP of Sales. When you're the only salesperson, VP of Sales isn't like the most exciting title. But I rapidly started hiring people. The ironic thing about it was my first sales job. I had a career I'm an engineer by training. I started my career writing code. I have a degree from MIT. So my entire professional lens was that of data science and technology. And people thought I was crazy, but I wanted to bring that lens to the world of sales. And it was, an opportune time to do it. I didn't do it to write a book later or anything like that. I did it because I had just had a baby. Well, my wife actually had the baby, but I was there. And then we got pregnant 4 months later, which is not recommended, but a blessing in the end. And I had $100,000 in loans. And I just bought a house. It was like, when I get nervous, I need the data. That's just the way I think. And so I was very lucky that the software space at the time, it was an opportune time to bring this type of lens to the world. There's a whole bunch of changes, people coming inside, technology was getting better, and it worked out really great. The company now we took it public a couple of years ago. It's listed on the New York Stock Exchange, just under $3 billion. We made a lot of money for our investors. As Ryan mentioned, I wrote a book about the process, and Harvard recruited me to be a full-time professor to teach these types of concepts to these students. In addition to teaching, I spent a lot of time with companies, and I met Ryan and Nick 18 months ago and was very inspired, like many of you have probably who had a chance to meet them, on their vision for this space and how much they can really transform this sector. And so I've been helping them with their revenue, but more importantly, really getting to know the commercial real estate space over the last 18 months. And I'll tell you, it feels a lot like what I walked into the software industry 10 years ago. It feels like it's ripe for this type of thinking. So that is our journey for the next 30 minutes, is I'm going to take you through my journey, some of the mistakes I made, some of the things I was going to enable, and then hopefully at the coffee break, it'll instigate some brainstorms for you folks on how you can apply it to your businesses and to your sector. Okay? So I was kind of chuckling listening to Barry and his hammer in the last presentation. That was great. Because he was, I think, hitting on one of the most important aspects to this journey that many people overlook. Believe me, when I was going into this, people were skeptical. People thought I was crazy to try this. They were like, these reports that you're trying to generate are useless. Furthermore, you're never going to get your reps to do this. And I don't want to slow down my reps to be able to capture this data. And so that really made me think about, you know what? The key to unlock this is first and foremost implementing technology that the reps love. The salespeople have a process they're going through. And by the way, when I say salespeople, think in your world, brokers, leasing agents, et cetera, they have a process they go through. And if I can implement technology that makes that process easier, faster, a better experience for the customer, and behind the scenes captures the data I want, then that is something that will work. And that's the first mistake that many people make, is they picture the report they want as an executive, and they put the onus on the rep to be able to capture that. That's going to fail every single time, right? So the first thing is to clear what's in it for me for that broker. So let me take you through what I saw in software. For you Office fans, we'll use Dwight here as an example. So this is what a typical legacy software person looked like and did 10 years ago, they'd come in the office on Monday morning and just be like, here's my territory. Let me throw a dart in the dark and pick a company to call. Right? Little did they know that 10% of those people had been on the website in the last couple of days. They had no clue as to that actually happened. You know, did they do any research? Absolutely not. They just lobbed their generic elevator pitch over voicemail to them and hoped that they'd call back. Very few people called back. Those that did, they got this meeting. They showed up to the meeting, didn't log any of the activity, and just brought their like really generic vanilla deck, gave a great presentation, patted themselves on the back, and said, what a great salesperson I am. And then they sent the contract out, crossed their fingers, and hoped that it would come back. That's how selling worked. That wasn't good for me. Okay? So we literally we raised $5 million. We spent $50,000, 4 people in a garage, on souping up our CRM to enable this stuff. This technology didn't exist. But I really wanted to be able to run this data-oriented revenue funnel. So what happened when our reps walked into the office on Monday morning is the CRM actually told them who to call. It did that because it knew who was actually on the website in the last couple of days or in the last couple of hours. It knew who was engaging with our marketing. And if no one in the territory had been engaged with the marketing, it knew we had programmed in the ideal call cadence. So it knew who was up for a call. It actually told the rep the engagement. Like our best reps went out to the web, went into social media, went to LinkedIn, did research on these companies before they called. We just crawled the web and brought that all to them. We brought the marketing data as to what blogs they were reading. So they knew how to reach out. In fact, we told them how to reach out. We had dozens of voicemail scripts, dozens of emails, and we had the context there. The CRM just said, this is the ideal email to send right now, given this person's context and given it's the third pain. The reps loved that. And behind the scenes, it automatically logged all the activity. It was connected to the phone, it was connected to the email. They didn't actually have to do anything. When they actually flew out to the meeting, the more they told us about what they uncovered, the more we helped them. Right? If we understood what pain they had, what their timeline was, what their specific interests were, we had hundreds of blog articles. We had 50 ebooks. We have 100 case studies. The system told them what was ideal based on the context that they uncovered. So that was motivation for the rep to add this information, not to help me as the executive, but to help them do their job better and make more money. That was key. When they sent out the contract, we texted them when the buyer opened it. We showed them what pages they looked at and how long they spent. They loved it. Okay? So that's the ideal part is, first off, to unlock this stuff, we got to start with the broker. Now, bring it to your world. Well, so anyway, what it ended up with was our conversion rate on leads was twice as much as the industry. Our sales cycle was half the amount, and I had the data I actually had to run the business. All right, go to your world. Mark, I don't know where you are, if Mark's here. Hey, Mark, I'm going to use an example here. So this is what I've seen, and I'll exaggerate here from the brokers, is, you know, some of the older school folks will go in there. They won't have much visibility between the tenant-landlord relationship going into a tour. They try to prep for the tour, but they can only bring so much information. And questions come up that they can't answer. Hey, what about upstairs? What if we expand? Is upstairs coming up anymore? Yeah, it's a great question. Let me take down some notes, and I'll get back to you on that. A lost opportunity, right? There's so few FaceTime that broker gets with that tenant. It's a lost opportunity to create value, right? They go back, they gather all the information, they email it off. Now they're being delegated to the tenant's broker. And now I have lost that opportunity to work face-to-face. And then, you know, as you folks said in the last panel, Friday comes along and I get around to finally updating my Excel sheet that I was going to bring to my boss. And, you know, this tour happened on Tuesday, so it's not really that close to my mind, and I've lost that opportunity. Versus more, you know, modern brokers will actually have that history to go into the tour with. They'll actually have real-time access, so when they ask about upstairs, we can bring it right up and build some trust. We can run an old-school sales model of give-get, where I'm giving them valuable information and I'm getting context back. So I can accelerate the sales cycle right there in that moment, right? When I shake hands and I leave and I'm going down the elevator, bam! It just pops up and I can input that information in real time when it's fresh in my head. And the reason why I'm taking the time to do it is because I know my landlord partner will get that in the next minute, will review it, and if there's any critical information that can help me accelerate the deal, they'll get it to me, right? It needs to start with the broker. Now that we've started with the broker, we can do the fun stuff. Ta-da! All right, so here's what we got. There's not many moments you get to say ta-da in your life. All right. So this was control and predictability. This is what I got every single month is the different colors of the different months, how many leads were created, January, February, March, April, May, how many meetings were generated, how many turned into a demo, and how many turned into a customer, and the conversion rate between each. I knew my sales cycle. Now, marketing, I got to measure them too. This looks like an eye chart, but let me explain. I've worked with so many sales and marketing teams, they never get along. Like, marketing thinks that salespeople are overpaid, spoiled brats, and salespeople think that marketers do arts and crafts all day. And they end up going back to their respective corners, and that is the kiss of death in today's modern internet-enabled buyer. Right? So no more arts and crafts marketing. I knew that when marketing generated a lead that downloaded an ebook that was a mid-market lead for us, they always converted at 2%. They always bought $200,000 worth of software. I know the lead value the minute it converts. So I can actually put marketing on a revenue quota, just like sales. Profound. And I will measure them every single day. Right? So now that I understand my sales activity and I know my marketing funnel, I can hold them accountable on a daily basis. This chart went out every single day to the entire executive team, the entire sales team, and the entire marketing team. I am measuring the heartbeat of my organization, my revenue funnel, every single day. What this shows is the journey for marketing from day one of a month to the final day of a month and get that $1 million lead value. And the white line, I'm sorry, this was red on my screen, shows how they're progressing against it. Now, I can't have marketing kill it in the first month, in the first couple days, and then flatline because I got a bunch of salespeople that can't get to that many leads. I also can't have them sitting around for 3 weeks doing nothing and make up for those leads in the last week because my salespeople will be twiddling their thumbs. Okay? And then similarly, I can see where I'm at relative to my tours in your business. How am I doing today that's going to be the business that's going to come in October? Right? And I can actually diagnose things 6 months earlier than most VPs of sales. Right? If I see a drop in the number of meetings that actually happen, well, let me look at it by region. How's North America? How's Europe? How's Asia? Is there something economic happening there in that region that's causing it? Or I can look at it by channel. My trade show leads, my pay-per-click leads, my cold call leads. Did something happen there? Or I can look at it by salesperson. Maybe our hiring's off. Maybe the new people we're bringing in is wrong, but I can diagnose it at a deeper level much earlier. Okay? And this enabled better coaching, too. I hate the term sales manager. I love sales coach. That's their job. Hire great people and develop them. And this enabled what I called metrics-driven sales management, where in this case, each color is a different rep. Joe, Mary, Bob, Sue, David. Now, if the top purple one is Joe, and Joe missed his number badly, I guarantee you if I didn't have the data and I went to the sales manager and said, you know, what's going on with Joe? The sales manager would say, he needs to make more calls. So they always blame it on. In this case, no way. What is wrong with Joe? Joe's made a ton of calls. He's got tons of meetings. Second on the team. Really bad at getting the demo stage, and terrible, worst, at converting them to customers. So I've enabled my frontline managers with the precision to diagnose where things are broken so they know where to look. Start listening to meetings, enable them. Okay? All right, so go into your world. I'll use CBRE as an example. Something happened last year. Oil prices dropped at the beginning of the year. They got a bunch of calls from their investors worried about their assets in Houston, where they had some investments. And they did the typical process of reaching out to the brokers to find out if anything was changing in the market. The broker said, A-OK. But the data showed otherwise. It turned out that the number of tours was dropping dramatically. So they made a bet. They thought that that would predict a drop in market prices in the next few months. And they got very aggressive on deals. Turns out they were absolutely right and knew far in advance of everyone else. Saves them a lot of money. Okay? So the bottom line is, we now have an opportunity to manage our business not at the end of quarter income statement, but in the activity 6 months in advance. That's enabling us to make early and intelligent interventions. We can diagnose exactly where things are breaking, and that creates predictable, scalable leasing. The final part is the revenue team itself. And as I think about, someone asked me once, Mark, would you rather have an A-plus sales team with a mediocre sales process? Or would you rather have a mediocre sales team with an awesome sales process? And despite the fact that I'm such a process-oriented guy, I would take the former every day. the A players out there representing me. It's the biggest lever we have as executives is choosing those folks who are out there representing our companies. And what's crazy is we don't appreciate how quantifiable success and failure in sales is. As we look across our other functions in our company, engineering, HR, finance, it's really hard for me to look at a finance team and be like, that's my best finance person by 7% right there. In sales, I can do that. In brokers, I can do that. Get pretty close. That's my best broker by 7%. And yet we don't use that comp when we're trying to figure out who's the ideal salesperson. So I tried to change that, and I documented the 10 criteria that I was looking for when I was hiring these reps. I documented what a score of a 1, a 5, a 7, a 10 would look like, and I started measuring it. And before you know it, I'd hired hundreds of reps. I could actually geek out MIT style and measure, run an analysis as to what actually yielded the best outcomes for us. I don't know really how to translate this into your world, but it was groundbreaking for us. And every quarter, I would actually re-correlate this. And it was so critical. Our attrition rate was amongst the lowest in our industry because we were so good at actually finding these people and bringing them up to speed. Right? So these were the actual criteria that ultimately yielded success. And what was funny about that was coachability, which was my #1 driver that led to success, was not even in my initial theory as to what criteria would actually correlate to success for us. Right? So I don't know about that one. I don't know how much you can lean in. Maybe choosing your leasing agents, you have to figure that one out. But I do know that Blackstone went through an opportunity, I think it was earlier this year, a story Ryan told me about, where they had a project they were doing in the UK. They were using joint broker agencies, and normally they would have waited for the deals to have come in to make those decisions, but instead they were using this technology to see who was actually performing. And they were using 3 agencies on the deal. Turned out that 2 of them were not performing. Seville's was, sorry if I mispronounced that, and they got rid of the 2 that weren't performing very quickly, well in advance of the deals flowing in. Some of the deals were flowing in, but they were really looking at the pipeline generating activity that allowed them to make those calls. So applying this concept of those people out there representing you and holding them accountable, right, to the actual performance that you want. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on taking some stuff that I did in the software world, in predictable revenue, and you can apply it to yours. I'll leave you with this final thought. This is how your Uber driver manages his sales funnel. This is how your local sub shop manages their sales funnel. And this is how a single 20-year-old manages their sales funnel today. So my question is this acceptable for a $1 trillion industry on how to manage their sales funnel? Food for thought. Thanks for the time.